This is The Raid, exposing the dark world of America's deportation machine. I'm your host, John Carlos Frey. Welcome to the podcast. After nearly a year of unprecedented attacks on immigrants, the undocumented, asylum seekers, refugees, people of color, and U.S. citizens by ICE and Customs and Border Protection, many are left feeling the after effects. And it appears that after the firing of Kristi Noem as the head of the Department of Homeland Security, the administration is regrouping, re-strategizing, and preparing for yet more apprehensions and detentions. Mass deportations have not gone away. But what has been left out of the headlines is the mass restructuring of the legal immigration process to the United States. I've often heard people shout at immigrants to get in line, or my family came the legal way. But most people have no idea how restrictive that legal process actually is. And it's getting worse, even though a vast majority of Americans favor a legal and safe immigration system. For today's update, I thought I would take a look at the long list of restrictions the Trump administration has imposed on the legal immigration system, and there are many. It would appear that the get in line or come here legally trope is less possible than it ever has been. If the current list of executive orders continues to restrict legal immigration to the United States, coupled with the ongoing efforts of mass deportation, the U.S. is heading to a net zero migration, which would have devastating effects on the economy, workforce population, and America's great engines of ingenuity, the welcoming of immigrants. Congress has passed no new laws to restrict legal immigration. These are all executive orders. Just note that before Trump took office in his second term, these were all prior legal paths to immigrate to the United States. Here is the list. On January 20th, 2025, Trump's first day in office, he revived the so-called Muslim ban policy from his first term, issuing an executive order that directed his administration to identify countries that should be subject to a full or partial visa ban. 6 months later, the administration announced that it would suspend entry for nations of 19 countries. In December 2025, the administration added 20 more countries to the list of suspended nationalities. We'll link to a list of all those countries that have been banned in the podcast summary. In January, the administration announced a pause in issuing permanent visas to nationals of an additional 75 countries. Taken together, nearly 60% of the countries worldwide are now subject to a full or partial visa ban to the United States due to these actions. In addition, hundreds of thousands of individuals already in the United States who are otherwise eligible to obtain or maintain lawful immigration status are in a legal limbo. In January, the administration boasted that it had revoked more than 100,000 visas since Trump took office last year, an increase of 150% from 2024. This includes 8,000 student visas. In September 2025, the administration updated the H-1B lottery skilled worker visa selection process. Most notably, the new process now includes a $100,000 fee for new visa petitions. Previously, it cost between $2,000 and $5,000 per petition. Again, companies now must pay a $100,000 fee for foreign worker applications. Lawsuits filed by 20 state attorneys general and U.S. Chamber of Commerce argue that the fee is illegal and the lawsuit remains pending. In August 2025, the government published a proposed rule that would limit the time international students under the F-1 and J-1 visa programs may remain in the United States to only 4 years. As a result, new international student enrollment dropped 17%. In October 2025, the administration introduced reforms to reduce employers' labor costs in the H-1B agricultural visa system by lowering wages of foreign farm workers by more than 30%. Yes, that's right. The visa system would be cheaper for employers to use, but the reduction in fees would be passed on to the workers by reducing the already low wages of agricultural workers by 30%. Created in September 2025 via executive order, the Gold Card program replaces or supplements the existing Investor Visa EB-5 program, though it requires substantially higher capital investments in exchange for permanent residency. It allows expedited U.S. residency for $1 million. That's for individuals, and $2 million for corporations, plus an additional $15,000 in processing fees. If you want to come to the United States and be here legally, get in line, but it's going to cost you $1 million. Separately, The diversity visa program offers up to 50,000 green cards for nationals of countries with low rates of immigration to the United States. Since 1990, the program has served as a key instrument to diversify U.S. immigration flows. In December 2025, Trump directed the program's suspension altogether. Diversity of immigrants is no longer a part of our legal immigration programs. One of Trump's earliest actions in his second term was the suspension of the U.S. refugee admissions program. Refugee resettlement was halted for nearly all nationalities, and as a result, tens of thousands of refugees who had already been approved for travel to the United States were left stranded. The only exception was for Afrikaners and some other minorities from South Africa. In November 2025, the administration also ordered a review of approximately 230,000 refugees admitted under the Biden administration and a halt to green card processing for refugees who'd entered during this period. Although refugees undergo lengthy and rigorous vetting process to be admitted to the United States, the Trump administration claims the applications needed to be re-examined. In yet another legal immigration program called Temporary Protected Status, or TPS, which allows nationals of designated countries to remain and work in the United States due to a conflict or disaster in their home country. The administration has also moved to terminate or allow to expire 14 of the 17 TPS country designations, arguing that the temporary nature of the relief had become a de facto form of permanent residency. The only remaining countries with TPS designations are El Salvador, Ukraine, and Sudan, with expiration dates later in the year. The entire program will be canceled, placing over 1 million immigrants, including hundreds of thousands of long-term U.S. residents, at risk of deportation. Finally, Trump also ended the Family Reunification Parole, FRP program, which was designed to reunite certain U.S. residents with family members from Colombia, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Haiti, and Cuba. As of December 2024, nearly 59,000 nationals from these 7 countries had received protection. In this case, the Trump administration maintained that since the purpose of the FRP program was family reunification, it did not meet the urgent humanitarian standard required for parole, and it has been canceled. Trump's first year back in office has delivered significant changes to the U.S. legal immigration system. Although there have been no new laws enacted by Congress, Trump has used his executive authority to curtail legal immigration and determine what kinds of immigrants should be admitted, or what kinds of immigrants should not be admitted. He has discussed his desire to implement a permanent pause on immigration from so-called third world countries and his preference for admitting immigrants from countries like Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Trump's legal immigration policies are also expected to have international ripple effects. Over the next 3 years, the country's attractiveness to international students, researchers, entrepreneurs, and skilled workers will decline. At the same time, other countries such as Australia, Canada, and Germany are actively recruiting high-skilled workers deterred by U.S. restrictions, particularly in technology and artificial intelligence. The policies will also harm international protection. The large reduction in U.S. refugee resettlement will leave thousands of individuals who were already vetted in dangerous, uncertain, and precarious situations. It will also force refugees into long-term displacement and undermine family reunification. The policies will also contribute to global humanitarian challenges. For example, reduced access to legal pathways combined with U.S. cuts to foreign aid and the aggressive deportation campaign could exacerbate the humanitarian crisis in Central America, a region with high levels of emigration to the United States and significant development challenges. Lastly, the U.S. retreat from its long-standing tradition of humanitarian leadership and welcoming immigrants is likely to create a vacuum that no other country could fill in the near term.
Thank you for listening to The Raid, available wherever you get your podcasts. For more information about our guests and the subjects we cover, please visit our website at theraidpodcast.org.